Somehow, we made it through 2025, and I'd like to thank everyone for listening this year, and we've got a lot more stuff coming up in 2026, so I'd like to also wish everyone a happy holidays. Christmas, whatever, whatever you guys celebrate, enjoy yourselves, and we will see you after the new year in 2026. But before that, this week, Karl and I get together for another installment of Darkness Weaves. And this week, we talk about LACUNAE, one of the final Kane stories that we're going to be covering. But before that, if you enjoy Everything Went Black, check out the other podcasts brought to you by the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. Every other Monday, Brandon Legion brings us Horror Wolf 666. Up next on Tuesdays, we've got Into the Necrosphere, brought to you by Jackie Smith. Wednesday, we've got Everything Went Black, as well as Iblis Manifestations. Thursday, the Necromaniacs Horror Podcast, meaning that Thursday is Necro Thursday. But we also have Soul Knocks, Day 1, brought to you by this week's co-host, Karl Haikara. Friday, Spitball Media comes at you. Saturday is a day off, so since we're in the holiday spirit, go out, enjoy yourselves, get that last-minute holiday shopping done, because on Sunday, Karl returns with Day 2 of Soul Knocks. I'd like to thank everyone who has supported the show over the years. It means a lot to me. This is largely a labor of love. If you want to step things up with your support of the show, you can join the Everything Went Black Patreon. For $1 a month, you get bonus material. For $5 a month, you get all the bonus material plus early access to the shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. So what are LACUNAE? Kane was studying a biochemical supply catalog. Gaps, cavities, blank spaces. Spaces are important, Blacklight said. He nodded his pizza-stained fists and rolled their knuckles together. Do you know how atomic bombs work? Used to build them, Kane said. They're overrated. You take 2 hunks of plutonium or something, Blacklight informed. Big as your fist. Now then, keep space between them, and it's on safety. But, and he knocked his fists against one another, take away the spaces, slam them together. Critical mass, kerblooey. So we're moving forward into sort of uncharted territory because these stories are kind of hard to find. Like they're not in any of the ebooks that are out there for Kane.
No.
And they're in maybe the original publications, but they're all collected in that Midnight Sun volume, which is a little bit rare and kind of expensive. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, these are the next 3 stories, the stories that you guys are gonna, if you don't have Midnight Suns, you're probably not gonna be able to read. But they're all modern day Kane stories, so they're set in the current time. This one is more like a sketch in some ways. It's only 8 pages. It's pretty short. But it was published, I think, in
Yeah.
I'm not sure what was it published in Whispers or something.
There's a couple of So originally this was published in Cutting Edge in 1986, which is an anthology edited by Dennis Etchison. And then also appears in the Why Not You and I collection that we were talking about. And that came out in 87.
Okay.
And then it also appeared in another anthology called Exorcisms and Ecstasies, which came out in 1997. So yeah, that's where you can find them if you don't want to, shell out the whatever you would pay for the Midnight Sun collection, which is quite expensive these days. And or, try to find them here somewhere. So I don't even know. I haven't tried. Well, Why Not You and I is available, but I haven't looked for Cutting Edge or Exorcisms and Ecstasies. So I don't know if those
That
things are available anywhere.
that is the Exorcisms one. It's like an anthology of different writers, just
Yeah,
like
it's
a
different
yeah.
writers. Yeah,
Those might be the cheapest routes probably if you can track them down because
yeah,
even Why Not You and I like we were talking about is a little
a little
price on
pricey.
the pricey side right now. So
Yeah,
unless you get lucky, um,
I,
but
I was
yeah,
able to score that pretty cheaply a few years ago. So yeah, you guys might be able to look out.
yeah, just have to keep your eyes open. I really hope that that might be the next one Valancourt puts out. You know, that'd be nice.
Dude, if only.
Yeah. The but yeah, so well, this story is called LACUNAE, and it's a weird one. I'll just put it that way.
Definitely.
It starts off with a scene that made me kind of want to throw up a little
Yeah, dude, it was
bit.
right off the bat. It's basically a pornographic scene of two people having sex in a hot tub, or so we think.
Yeah.
And it's a woman with male genitals having sex with a man. Um, and then they get into some like rough sex, and
The guy like tries the other yeah, the guy tries to get her to give him a blowjob of the head underwater and
yeah,
then forces it and then she bites his dick off.
yeah,
It is flooded with blood and cum and like it was like, oh my God, I kind of want to throw up listening to that, reading that.
yeah. It was definitely definitely out there as far as that goes. But it turns out that it was that wasn't really what was going on. It was more this elaborate masturbation scene that Elaine, one of the main characters, there's only three people basically in this story, Elaine and two other people.
Yeah, and Elaine's like the main character really, and she turns out that she was engaging in autoerotic fixation or whatever they call it. What do they call that when
Autoerotic asphyxiation.
asphyxiation? Yep. So she was had like a gimp mask on and had um tried to like basically hang herself to pass out while she was masturbating in this like costume and it got stuck and she was about to die and then this guy Blacklight, right, his name is broke in and saved her life.
Yeah, so he's a drug dealer, but they've been friends for a while. Or, so it seems like maybe he's her regular dealer.
Yeah, that's what I think what it
Um,
is.
yeah. So Blacklight, that's a, pretty cool name.
Yeah, and he's like a kind of burned out Vietnam vet. We find out who has done a lot of acid and stuff and kind of keeps like has like a very short term memory.
Yeah. So, he's a little definitely like you were saying, burnt out. And I don't know, for some reason I find that name funny, Blacklight, you
Yeah,
know.
it's a funny name to have. Just like yeah, my name's Blacklight. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's how that's how the story starts. Is he saves her life. She finds that she's like threw up. She was like biting on like something in her mouth, like a
A
thing that she's
dildo.
dildo in her mouth, and she's wearing a giant like strap-on dildo as well.
Now, let's one more thing to note, which it comes up later in the story. The man in her fantasy is named Alan, okay?
Yep.
And she's
Her-
Elaine. All
And
right,
she's
so
Elaine. Yep.
yeah.
And as so yeah, so quickly we find out yeah, Blacklight's her dealer has brought her like a gram of coke, which is like a lot of coke, and she's a painter. She's doing like kind of paints. She has like a art show, has a show that she's painting for, and is basically just doing a ton of drugs and getting fucked up and painting essentially.
Yeah. You ever
Um,
see that movie Bliss that Joe Begos made? You ever see that?
no, I haven't seen that one actually.
This setting reminds me of that a little bit. I recommend checking that out actually if you can find. I think it's on somewhere. It's out there.
Yeah, I'm
Bliss.
sure it is. Yeah, I have to check. I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his movies.
Yeah, he's cool. He's like a metalhead and everything too. So
Yeah, he's friends with Jeff actually.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so this, and in the course of this conversation, the story's very strange the way it's told. The course of conversation, Blacklight starts going on about kind of dualities. Like he talks about love and hate and how you can't bring it together, can't bring love and hate together, or it explodes. And it's kind of like talks about like the left and right side of the brain and all this type of stuff. Like the story is very fixated on dualities and the space in between them, essentially, right?
exactly. And he also has love and hate on his knuckles. Um, similar to that film that Robert Mitchum's in, whose name
Yeah,
escapes me right now.
a Night of the Hunter, which
Night of
is
the Hunter.
referenced, yeah, which is
Yeah,
referenced in, yeah,
yeah, which he references that.
which is a great movie.
Another interesting thing to mention too is lacunae is that's a Latin word and it refers to missing pieces, like things missing parts of the whole. Um, or like basically maybe a hole in a story or something like that. The part that's not it's not intact in some ways.
Yeah, yeah, I always kind of see LACUNAE, like usually it's used in terms of like in like those Del Rey Howard collections where at the end they have like the fragments
Yeah,
of Conan stories, things. To me, that's like that's always I think usually when people use the term LACUNAE, it's like bits and fragments, stuff that was edited out, yeah, that kind of thing. Stuff that was thought lost and you
yeah.
find it.
Like
Yeah.
typically, I think of it in terms of like a literary term, but in this case, it's well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to the missing parts in this story here.
So in the conversation, Blacklight lets drop that he has a new connection, a new guy who's making these kind of designer drugs, he says. And he says tells her like, maybe you want to try this out. It's like a new type of speed. That's how he sells it to her, essentially.
Yeah. And because before that, she said that she's done with coke and she doesn't want to do meth anymore. So she needs something stronger, apparently, to get her over the finish line with this art project she's working on.
Yeah. So he kind of lets it, she goes, okay, yeah, that'd be great. And then what's he eventually Blacklight leaves and she is kind of painting all fucked up, does a ton of coke and stuff, and is like, zonked out, like doing painting. And then all of a sudden, a giant man is in a chair behind her, starts talking to her, and it turns out it's Kane.
Yeah, and she didn't think, she thought he was an intruder at first, because she has all these references to like, what to do in a situation like this. And she kind of indicates to him that, oh, my boyfriend will be right back. One of those like typical, responses to like a guy like breaking into your house or something like that.
Yeah, but then eventually is like, Blacklight told me that, you're interested in this drugs or whatever, and she kind of, relaxes a little bit. Although it is funny how Kane just kind of walks into her house
Yeah,
and then talks about art and stuff like that as well.
he talks specifically about this shade of blue that she's using in her current painting, cerulean. So that's like that's a kind of term that like I would imagine, since I'm not an artist or a painter or anything like that, that's a term of someone who understands color would use that word to describe that shade of blue.
Yeah, and doesn't he reference something about how that shade of blue makes him think of art from like old time? And she goes like, "How old?" And he's like older than you know, or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking he's probably talking about some art from I don't know, Karsuthiel or something. Who the fuck
Karsuthiel,
knows?
yeah.
Yeah, who the fuck knows? Yeah, some other
Because she
old time.
also she also sort of asked him if he's like an art critic, because like sort of like jokingly,
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm a dilettante. But then we do know that Kane is a cultured man, and he's immortal. So he's seen centuries and epochs of culture, so he's someone who definitely understands these things.
Yeah, and he's also been like in the Dark Muse, he was kind of the protector and of that that poet, although he does lead the poet into
Well,
madness. Yeah, but the
I
poet
mean,
wanted to do that, you know.
true. There is a little bit of parallel in this story though too, as well. So
Oh yeah, it is very much a parallel to Dark Muse, yeah.
yeah. So
And
yeah.
yeah, what do you say?
No, I was just gonna say basically, yeah, there's like this story makes references to past stories literally and also just in vibe, like we were talking about with like, Dark Muse, Kane is protecting the poet and then leads him into ruin. And we'll see how things pan out for Elaine here.
Yeah. Yeah, eventually he does give her this new drug, which I guess is kind of what he's made, kind of looks like cocaine, but he tells her not to shoot it up.
Yeah. And he also said that it's completely illegal. It's legal too.
Yeah, because it's made out of things. Is that when he says something about it being made out of th old things or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what he talks about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um the yeah, it's made out of stuff that people wouldn't normally think of as a drug, so um and so eventually she does it and
Well, one of the things he sells her on is that it's like you said, it's he markets it to her as super speed that can fill in the lost spaces. Because he asks her, he's like, "Do you remember what you did in the last 24 hours or 48 hours?" And she's like, "Yeah, well, I had breakfast, whatever." And he's like, "Well, what did you do with like 9:42, like yesterday morning?" And she's like, "I mean, I can't remember those things. I can't remember like the minutia of my day." And he's like, well, this will make you remember like all of those lost moments in your life. So,
yeah, then all the things that indeed, all the thoughts you have, like goes on about how people think, have thoughts and they forget them immediately, stuff like that. Like this drug is supposed to help you remember all of that, every single thing.
that would be kind of a cool experience though, even if you could, if it wore off eventually, that is, you know what I mean? It's like how many different like ideas have you had for songs and lyrics and things like that you're laying in bed and it's just like, oh yeah, should I get up and record this into my phone or should I just go back to sleep? And then it's like the sickest thing you've ever imagined. You fall asleep and when you wake up, it's like it never even existed before, but it's still
Yeah.
there in your head somewhere.
Yeah. But it definitely would be something I could see leading to madness for
Oh
sure,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And uh that is yeah, I definitely have that happen. I've had that happen where I've composed stuff in my head as I'm like falling asleep and then I try to like remember it the next day, like because I had it in my head, like I could imagine, like as a song, I could imagine what notes was where they would be playing on guitar and stuff. I had it like all in my head, and then I just didn't get up to go do it and
yeah.
figure it out for sure. And then you just don't remember it all.
Well, the most
Sucks.
infuriating thing is that it's still in your brain somewhere, but you just can't access it. So that's the allure of this drug, especially to an artist, someone who's trying to create. Kane really hard sells that aspect of it to her. Um, so, there you go.
Right. And then eventually she does do it, and this is where and the experience ends up not being very pleasant. She starts feeling uncomfortable. She starts losing time. She's actually kind of losing time in a way
Yeah.
because she's like caught up in she's caught up in minutia of the moment as well as being flooded with the past. And it's like too much. It's like overwhelming her. Um, and this is where we find out some things about Elaine. We find out that Elaine is actually a trans woman. And that was it. Albert is actually the name of who she.
Alan. Alan.
Alan is her name, kind of male name, the name she had before she transitioned. And and that and it goes into like kind of her hatred, and it's kind of where the story is interesting in the sense that it's all about dualities. So in a way, why does he have a trans character? It's because it's a person who's a dual has a duality, right? Who has like two warring sexes inside of them in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know that some trans people will be annoyed by the idea that she's fantasizing about having sex with the male version of herself, because I know that's something I know for a fact that's something that trans people don't like, that type of stuff. But at the same time, I think the idea of them having warring sexes is kind of true, because that is part of what causes depression in a lot of people, because they who are trans, because they are born a certain sex, but they feel another sex, and it causes this weird discord, right? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that, exactly. And I remember this was written in 1980, probably written in 1980 or something like that, when this was like way like underground type of stuff. And
Yeah.
so
I
anyone
mean,
out there who's going to read this now, don't get offended by any of these like you know, sort of out of time um concepts. You know what I mean?
yeah. And it's also a straight dude trying to like imagine
Straight
what it,
white male.
trying to imagine what it'd be like to be a trans woman, right?
Yeah,
So, but the fact that he's even trying to do that is pretty ahead of its time for when it was written. So,
yeah, no, exactly.
but yeah, but it also ties thematically to the story, which is talking about the need of spaces. Like, and at the end, Blacklight kind of like talks about how he thinks that we need those spaces in time. We need those kind of lacunae to give. And this is kind of true, though. We do in some ways. That's part of the reason why the brain forgets thing. Part of the brain needs that kind of reset time. If it was always on constantly, you would be driven. You become a schizophrenic essentially. You would go insane.
Yeah. And also just like the whole nature of our consciousness evolving, the fact that the way that, we evolved as hominids was that we had like data chunking where you would look at pieces of information as wholes and not each little minutia. And that led to our survival in the woods, out in the, tundras or savannas or whatever of ancient man. We were able to like chunk data together and react to it in a certain way instead of being hung up on every little detail. And, you know, that led to our survival. So the way that the act of like filtering out some of these things which are less significant than others is crucial, and it's kind of a curse to be able to like see every millisecond of your of your life, you know what I mean, in detail like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it is something that happens with the thing about like amphetamines and drugs like that, like cocaine, is that they will cause people to focus on the minutia of things, but then they'll also lose time. That does happen. And then a lot of those things will actually you won't remember. Like that's like David Bowie talking about how he doesn't remember recording station to station because he was so high in cocaine all the time. He's like he's like I know that was recorded. He said that I knew that was recorded in L.A. because I read that it was.
Dude,
So, you know, like but he was at the time that he's recording it, so it was, it's one of the best albums. But it's like, you can create really great works of art, but there is a price to be paid. You know what I mean? And
same thing with Stephen King. There's like I forgot what novels that he doesn't even remember writing.
I think like it and
Like,
like
yeah,
yeah, like some of
because
those
he
not
was
yeah.
once again, he's another guy who liked to do cocaine. So during his coke years, like he wrote some of these incredible stories and novels and has no recollection of actually doing it and stuff.
Yeah, because you get like it will put people into the kind of I guess creative flow, and they'll just get so sucked up into it. Philip K. Dick doing mountains of amphetamine, so he's like writing, a lot. It is something a lot of I think writers in particular, more so than musicians, kind of get into those things. And I kind of get it because you're just sitting in front of something writing, right? Like you kind of need to get into the
Yeah,
headspace to like just like lose track of everything to really get into it, right? So
definitely. I mean, yeah, when you're playing in a band, you got other people to think about, and other people to interact with. And it's like everyone's straight and like one dude shows up on cocaine that, that could be like very anti-productive, you know what I mean? If one guy's all coked out and like everyone else is like drinking coffee and water, and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Um, but yeah, essentially I mean, the story essentially ends with Elaine kind of going crazy and she starts like cutting herself and using her blood for the painting and like it's she's like really like losing it and it's hard to describe exactly without reading the story the way that he tells it, which is really quite interesting, you know what I mean? Again, like Karl Edward Wagner using very experimental styles of writing
Yeah,
inside of somebody's head, essentially.
yeah, so um, I would like to be someday. I hope that I can. Well, I have interviewed Joe Begos before for the Holy Mountain like print magazine, but I'd like to return and interview him for Everything Went Black at some point
That'd be
next
cool.
year because I
Yeah,
want to ask him if he actually read this story because the Bliss movie he made it's similar to this in a lot of ways. It's like a painter, drugs, like getting into this like flow state and then some horrific stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm just so curious to know if he actually has read any of these stories. I think it'd be interesting.
that would be interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the final part of it is Kane and Blacklight having this conversation, like you mentioned, like Blacklight talking about the need for those spaces. And then there's like a conversation about a nuclear weapon, and Kane's like, "Yeah, I'm past that now," you know.
It's like
And
I used to make those.
yeah, and
And
I
once
think that's
again, yeah, it's a reference to
reference.
Gothic touch.
Yeah, which wouldn't come out until much later, which is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that is interesting.
um, yeah, because he wouldn't write that for another decade almost. So, but he must have had that in his head. I think that Carl Wagner somewhere there's like a whole sheaf of writing of him going through Kane's whole history
Yeah.
in chronological order so he could keep everything straight and as he's telling the stories out of order, you know?
I mean, that makes total sense because there's a lot of intricate stuff that goes on between all the novels and short stories and references and like, you know, cities that he's been to that are once thriving and then he returns like 1,000 years later and they're in ruins and, civilizations and names and things like that.
Yeah, and it's cross stories too. Like one story it'll be like prospering and then the next story we return to a place that we were there earlier and it's a ruin now, and a whole nother story that came out later. I just feel like he must have had kind of a general chronology and particularly knowing that he's telling them out of order in this kind of fragmented state. Often we're only given like hints of stuff, but you definitely feel like he had it all like tracked out, you know?
Yeah. One of the things they mentioned is critical mass, like when they're talking about the nuclear weapons,
Yeah,
and of course, critical mass is like the minimum amount of like fissile material that can sustain a reaction in perpetuity. You know what I mean? Like the way nuclear power works is like, the reaction itself feeds itself and then continues on.
right.
That's how a nuclear reactor works. And that's so you I have to wonder since Kane gave her like a controlled amount of this substance if she is just in this like self-sustaining loop. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, and he does say something about how the compounds aren't quite right, so he's gonna have to find a new guinea pig, essentially, you know?
Yeah, 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 totally.
Yeah. So, and I'm wondering what is the reason why Kane's doing this? I think Kane wants to remember parts of his past, right? You know,
Sure. Yeah.
so he's searching for some kind of drug that will allow him to, and maybe he's trying to revive something that he utilized thou millennia before. That's kind of what I'm thinking is going on. He's trying to remember a formula of something that he used like back whenever, like Carsuthiel or something, and he's trying.
Yeah, I was on that same page with it too because like Kane like always has like some sort of end in mind to everything he does. Like there's a plan. And even though the story is short and just basically tells like a 24-hour period, even though it's a very sketchy story, there's he still follows that same convention of like Kane having a reason for everything. And I was thinking the same thing, especially when you said that, basically the compounds aren't right. So he's trying these drugs out on people just to see where he has to like maybe add or subtract certain ingredients and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Kane's not dumb. He's not going to do it on himself.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, totally. So
Even
no,
though
I
it's not
agree
going to
with you.
kill him,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because, and that leads to my, kind of the next thing. It's like, it's Carlo Wagner. I enjoy reading his writing. Okay. I think he's a great writer. I think he always has something interesting to say in his stories. But this one felt like a prelude more so than a self-contained story. You
Yeah,
know what I'm trying to say?
it felt like the prologue for a novel.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
felt
It's
like
like,
the start of like we were just getting introduced to Kane, and then next chapter we're eventually gonna like it's gonna be like a story of Kane, modern day story of Kane, like trying to do some diabolical scheme to like do something, right? That's
yeah.
kind of what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it just kind of does its thing and ends, and that's the end of the story. And it's a little unsatisfying in that way because you want to find out where all this leads because they sort of tease it too.
And I'm wondering, I'm wondering if the next two stories are gonna have any kind of relationship with this one at all. It's hard to say.
Well, we'll
I
find out.
Yeah, I know one of them set in London because it's
Yeah.
like a tribute to the Avengers, the TV show. Um, but I don't know, and that's all I know really. All
Yeah.
I know is that the next story starts off with some more pornographic stuff going on.
Well, also Wagner wrote porn too. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's an old hand at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's funny though because like even in even in this horror stories, I don't think there was any like anything as explicit as this story
No,
starts
no,
with.
no. This was straight like it reminded. Yeah, this is good. This is funny. Many many years ago in the '90s, we would travel on tour and like there was this dude I was in a band with that was like a major porn guy. Like he loved porn, right? So
Okay.
he had this, he had this like accordion folder filled with porno magazines in the van, right?
Yeah.
It was his van. He owned the van, right?
Right.
So we would stop at like different truck stops, and you get like those 3 packs. You would see like I don't even know if they sell porn in truck stops anymore, but like there's like you would get magazines in like wrapped, and there's like 3 magazines usually, and like
Yeah, I've
the
seen them
mid
or those.
the middle one is like some super sketchy like black and white weird one with looks like illegal or something like that.
Yeah.
But there was a magazine called Nugget, which
Yeah, I remember Nugget.
yeah, yeah, totally. This
Yeah.
seems like a story that would be in Nugget because the thing with Nugget was like it wasn't all right. If you've seen this mag out there, you know that this was not a magazine for everyone. It catered to very specific tastes. Like if you're into like hirsute women or like certain kinks, and things like that, you know, don't do anything for you, but somewhere out there, there's a guy who that's like his whole world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the thing I enjoyed about the magazines was there were stories in there, like just pages of text that you would read,
That that's like
porno stories.
that's like a lot of porno mags had like stories in them that
Yeah,
some of them didn't even anything to do with porn. It was just like a story. Because I know like some of the editors, I know editors would go, well, we, people are buying it for the pictures. We can fill the text with whatever, really, So
yeah.
they would,
Well, actually, Stephen King had some of his early stories published in porno mags. I mean, like,
yeah,
like Penthouse and Playboy, not like Jugs or something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Particularly Penthouse and Playboy, they would publish a lot of, you know,
yeah. A
you
lot of
re
really,
you literally could read those like for the articles if you wanted,
yeah,
and
yeah.
actually, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So this story feels like because of the whole kink aspect to it, and like the beginning, and it really does feel like a story that could have been. It's only 8 pages long.
Yeah.
Maybe this was published in a porn magazine somewhere. I don't know. It could have been.
Or you originally wrote it for one, but then it got published in this
It
other thing
wasn't
instead.
dirty
Yeah.
enough, maybe. Maybe originally he had written this for the porn audience, but it wasn't dirty enough, so it got rejected, and he published it a fantasy science fiction anthology.
Could be. It's yeah, because I
We'll
mean he
never
did,
know
yeah.
because Wagner's gone too. It
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. I wonder what happened to all where all because I'm sure he published all his porn stories under pseudonyms and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure they're out there floating around in like old porn magazines. You could buy like someone with like porn story written by Karl Edward Wagner. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
stars Kane. Kane's like the
yeah,
character in it, but it's a porno story.
yeah, that no one knows about really. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's hard. That's the thing. Like, it's the thing is like where stuff's like floating out there in the world. 'Cause he wrote it. That's how he survived as a writer. I think at one point in time was writing porn stories. So
Yeah, you know.
under different pseudonyms.
So this is kind of like where I guess the character departs a little bit from like your traditional um Robert E. Howard or Moorcock or Gemmell or something like that. Like he's in the modern world. Even though Moorcock had some characters that existed in the 20th century too. Um, it's not like Conan is in, London or something like that.
Yeah, because he's lived the whole time, so he's watched the whole thing progress. Um, but in some ways it still is a little bit because it is Kane. Like he is like a fucking giant dude who can kill somebody with his bare hands and has a sword in his apartment, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, totally. This is true.
yeah, he probably has like a millennia old sword like and chainmail and stuff in his closet probably, right? Like
Yeah.
he can still operate in that world, but he's kind of like now he's in this story, the Milu, like the way he's kind of described as he kind of sounds like a character out of like The Crow or something.
Yeah,
He
yeah, I
shows
can
up.
see that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the world that this story's operating into. But it is Kane, like you can imagine like what kind of shit is he gonna get up to in the modern world? And Wagner didn't really do very much with that. I mean, he only wrote three stories set in the modern world, so but I think he had that idea. I mean, the thing with Kane though is that you could if somebody were to like try to do like a modern Kane continuation, you could set Kane stories at any point in time.
Has anyone written any pastiche Kane stories?
I don't know. I've never heard of one. So,
Yeah, me neither, man. Like
so
we'll be getting into some of Wagner's Robert E. Howard pastiches at some point next year. So yeah, I mean, I'm to be curious to find out if anyone has taken the mantle of Kane on.
not as far as I know, I don't think, but would be, there's a lot you could do with that. But you'd have to have the right writer who could really get in the mind space of what Kane, of Kane and Wagner, you know what I mean? But people have done it for Conan, but Conan is a simpler character, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And some of the varying degrees of success too. Some Conan pastiches are better than others. They're not all equal, really.
Yeah, which is inescapable,
Yeah.
when you have, a ton of different writers writing him in comics and everything. But, I'm willing to see if somebody could try their hand at a good Kane pastiche, like maybe Laird Barron or somebody, you know what I mean?
I could see that.
Yeah. Um, but and you could pick any time in history that you wanted. You could do all kinds of things. Imagine a Kane Batman crossover.
I was thinking similar things because you sent over those that Kane sorry, that Batman Darkness crossover comics that you had.
Yeah,
You just got
I found today, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to read The Darkness. That was a cool comic book.
Yeah, this one is I just found it at the store for like $9 and it's got the Batman Darkness crossover to Superman Darkness crossover and the first six issues of the Darkness. And I'm like, they're bringing back the Darkness as well. The new issues coming out
Really?
this month, I think. Yeah.
Who's publishing it?
Um,
Like Image or something like that?
yeah, I forget which one because
Yeah.
they also brought it's the same company that is doing the new Witchblade, and I can't think of
Oh,
was
okay. Yeah, both of
yeah.
those were published by Top Cow, I think, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're bringing back Darkness. It was cool find. I've never read the Batman Darkness crossover, but there's some cool like I mean the Alien and then there was a Predator Batman crossover. Those are good. There was a Grendel Batman crossovers that have been done that were good.
Grendel's
Yeah.
always good, man. That's always a great comic book.
Yeah, both of the Batman Grendel crossovers Matt Wagner did, which are a lot of fun.
Yeah,
But yeah, I imagine a Kane one. Kane just kind of because Kane's kind of like Ra's al Ghul in a way, so
yeah.
it would be interesting.
He would
And Kane,
totally as a straight up just villain. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Or it could be one of those weird situations where he's like how he has a lot of stories where he is kind of doing the right thing, but then he double crosses Batman at some point or something.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because that's he
Or
always
or
does
in a
that. Yeah.
or like in a self-serving way, he does the right thing. Similar to like I just finished Waylander a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And so there's that one character, I forgot his name, the guy who was the assassin that was tasked with killing Waylander.
Yeah.
And then at the very end he like helps him, you know what I mean, and sacrifices himself basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he came being incorporated into his story that way too.
Yeah. But it would be more self-serving. You'd have to, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing with Kane though is his everything. He is like a good Batman villain because everything he does kind of falls apart in the end. Like he's never successful. Like the thing with Kane is funny is that he's never really successful
Yeah.
because he always kind of undoes him. He has this like perversity where he kind of undoes himself somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, and I think it's that perversity of always betraying everybody all the time. But
Yeah. I mean, you know, I really hope that you guys can find these stories too, because this is actually, even though this isn't like, you know, a go-to Kane story, it's still interesting though. You know what I mean? I still recommend reading all this stuff.
yeah, I like the ideas in it as well. It's got a lot of it, but it really does feel like a setup. Like, you know, it's like the high hand of Nurgle stories where there's like the setup and then there's been like three different people who have like completed it. This feels like the setup to like a novel or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, like a pastiche would be like what would you imagine that Kane is doing trying to accomplish like
It-
with this drug?
After this, after
Yeah,
this,
like
this has, if this was like a prologue,
yeah,
yeah, like what you were saying, like he's trying to use the drug himself to recollect something. You know, maybe obviously he did not kill God like he was trying to do in a Gothic Touch. He wasn't successful in that. You know,
that's why he's given up on constructing nuclear weapons.
yeah, that's why he gave up on making nuclear weapons. So maybe there's some other more esoteric means of doing that, and that's where he's trying to remember, and that's why he's trying to construct his memory. Because I imagine, like, look, we live a fraction of the lifespan that he has lived, and there are straight up sections of my life that I just don't remember in any real detail. You know what I mean? Imagine what he's forgotten after living from several millennia.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
whole lifetimes have probably been forgotten.
I kind of think that maybe he's trying to I would do maybe he's trying to recollect some type of like eldritch horror to unleash to try to kill God or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
that he remembers from hearing about at some point in history and it is in what is now America that used to be like a different continent, you
exactly.
know? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Hmm.
it's buried somewhere in.
Well, now you see that, you know, just going back to some of the tried and true tropes out there, there would be some city you'd have to travel to, and you'd find some building, and that building would be built on top of some ancient, ruin. Maybe Karsultiel. Maybe he has to go to like some other European country or Asian country, and then he has to go back into that some labyrinth, and then of course he runs into some sort of like demon or ghouls or something down there to retrieve something. You know,
Yeah.
that's part of what you were saying, a key to unlock this portal that would bring these eldritch beings from a different dimension that he can manipulate into destroying God, like something like that.
Yeah. But of course it might go wrong at some point.
Yeah,
The
probably will. You know,
the yeah. Or maybe there's like yeah, some crazy fucking ruins like buried far underneath like I could
New York,
imagine
New York
like
City.
yeah, New York City or or even like up here in the mountains, because there's like there's like a million miles of dirt between, you know what I mean? Like down below, somewhere down deep in the mountains, there's like the ruins of like Carsuthiel or something. That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, or even like I was saying in New York City, there's like the subway system. There's like
Oh
sections
yeah,
that are blocked off, and you
that's
know,
there's like a whole city under New York City. There's parts where they've just built on top of. There's
yeah,
like literally like streets, like street.
literally, yeah.
Yeah,
And that would be like really good setting for something like that. But and also take it one step further, he brings on the apocalypse because it always goes wrong for him, right? So he
yeah,
doesn't succeed in destroying God. However, he destroys he destroys modern civilization, and then the whole cycle starts over again, and he's immortal. He survives somehow,
yeah,
and then we go back to like an ancient medieval time in the future.
yeah.
And
That'd
then we
be
got a
cool.
whole other set of stories that take place in the future after some apocalypse,
That he's created. That
that
would be
he's
cool.
created.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would
And
be
then he
cool.
has memories of this whole thing. And then there's a whole 20 or 30 stories that take place in the far future where he has the memories of, almost like how in Planet of the Apes, you know what I mean? There's like you would find ruins that people are worshiping, like the Statue of Liberty or something like that, or like some some modern thing is being worshipped in a way as a holy place because of some just degenerated memory of what it used to be, or
Yeah.
even
Did you?
or even radiation or something like that being, oh, this land's a cursed land because
Well, have you ever read Terry Brooks' Sword of Shannara
I,
series?
I read like the early ones, but I don't remember. See, I don't remember those too well. I could use this drug to remember all that stuff. But
Sort of Shannara, and I didn't realize this when I read it as a kid, but I figured it out when I reread it about 10 years ago. Is set in a future, a post-apocalyptic future where people have like a science fiction future. People had like kind of used science and magic together, and they
yeah,
unleash some type of devastation. And there's these wastelands that are irradiated.
yeah,
And there's one part where they go to like these ruins, and when I re and they encounter an old robot thing that they have to kill. But he's like in the story, he's describing like metal girders and stuff from like a medieval point of view. So when I read it as a kid, I didn't really piece together what was going on. I just
yeah,
thought it was kind of some weird shit or whatever. Then reading as an adult, I was like, he's talking about like a city like of steel girders like ruined, and like this is a fucking robot like from the future that they
yeah,
have to kill. I
exactly.
was like totally like blew my mind. I didn't know that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that honestly. I mean, like I said, I read that so long ago that I remember reading like the first book, and I never went back to any of it. I thought it was cool, but I just got into other things, I think, after that.
Yeah, I only ever read the first book, but I know people like the series quite. I mean, I have the first like three books, but I haven't gone back. I hadn't read the other ones yet. There's like a ton of them,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, the first book is still pretty cool though. But yeah, always an interesting concept when you encounter that, like particularly when it's being written from the point of view of somebody who's kind of medieval technology level, and they're trying to like make sense of like what they're looking at, and that's kind of like what happened in the Gothic Touch, right? Like where
Yeah,
Elric's trying to make sense of like what they're looking at. Kane,
exactly. And
but
Kane already knows about what the deal is with all these things.
yeah, that's a cool thing about Kane. Um, yeah, like. Cause I'm not really too into say like when Beastmaster comes to the modern times, right? But like, it's interesting when you have like when it's done right. You know what I mean?
Did you ever get into the Deathstalker movies?
Yeah, I love the first two Deathstalker movies.
Yeah,
I saw you post about the remake. I need to
the,
watch it.
it's
Is it
cool. The remake's fun. It's definitely cool.
is it
It-
good?
yeah, it's campy, but it's awesome. And there's like a lot of good sword fights in it, and it's pretty cool. And
Did they retain all the gratuitous nudity in
no,
it?
no, no, that
Yeah.
sometimes like that's my look, I'm not trying to be like, any, but it's like I feel like these stories call for nudity.
Well, yeah, and Beastmaster or not Beastmaster, Deathstalker. I mean,
It's
the
known for that. Yeah.
one of the main characters in the first movie is just topless all the time.
Yeah,
She's just
exactly.
walking around topless, like
Yep.
it's just the thing. Like and you're like, And she was like I think a Playboy model, but like a nudist, so she had no problem with it, right? She was like, it's fine. Like I'm walking,
Yeah,
and
people are
like
hung up. They're hung up on that stuff these days, I think.
people were not. I talked to my friend Jack about it. Like he's like, yeah, back in the 70s, 80s, people were way more like, just let freedom fly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. I mean, there's of course there's the thin line about like, women being exploited and all that stuff. But if you're down with it, then you should be able to do it and not be judged for it either.
same thing with Linnea Quigley and Return
Yeah,
of the Living
dude.
Dead. She had no,
Hell yeah.
yeah, and that's what's funny about that movie is that the other characters seemed like annoyed because she's like always taking her clothes off. And that was what was so funny about that character in that movie is they're like, here she goes again. She starts taking her clothes off. She just wants
Yeah,
to be
man.
naked, I guess, you know?
But it's like that's what I mean. It's like, there's like a whole conversation to be had about that, with like exploitation. It's like, if you're not into it, you don't want to be naked and they're forcing you to do it, or, oh, you're not going to get paid unless you take off your top, then that's a different story. But if you're down, if you're into it, then go for it, man. No one should judge you for it.
Yeah.
And that's
And
why Deathstalkers, the remake, we should have found some actors who are into it and, you know, rocked out.
yeah, I just feel like that was like the thing and those both of the first two movies. The second one there was a little bit less. Like the first one, there's a lot of gratuity.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
like she's like walking around with no top on, like for
The whole
and
movie basically,
whole
yeah.
movie basically, yeah. It's just like a matter of fact. Deathstalker 2 has a little bit less, but it's still there. Deathstalker 2 is like definitely a comedy as well.
Yeah.
Like they
It's
knew
way
that they're
way more campy.
yeah, but it's a lot of fun though. It's a fun movie at the same time. Stalker.
I definitely back the remake too. I mean, it's cool. It's fun. There's a lot of practical, mostly practical effects. Cool like fighting and like sword fights, and it's definitely fun. And the guy who did The Void is a dude who made it. He did
That's
The
cool.
Void and like Psycho Gorman. Kostansky. Like I'm a big fan of his movies, and he gets it. You know what I mean? So it's cool.
Yeah. Did they also did a little mini series that I bought. Valiant did I think it's like 3 or 4 issue Deathstalker series that I
Oh, I don't think I ever saw that.
yeah, I picked that up. I was getting that when I was coming out. That was like a little bit before the movie came out. I think they're kind of trying to tie it in a little bit. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'm just happy to see a new like sword and sorcery movie coming out, you know?
Yeah. It feels like there's interest in that genre again for some reason. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know. I feel like that there's more like sword and sorcery discussion, with the Conan stuff, with Titan. We got Solomon Kane stories coming out. We've got, you know, it seems like there's interest again. This Deathstalker film came out, you know. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah, I think there is. I think some younger generations are starting to get into it. You know, there's people doing YouTube videos about sword and sorcery movies um and I mean you can watch almost all those movies like for free on Amazon, so it's pretty easy. You can watch Sword and Sorcerer and Dragon Slayer and the Deathstalker movies and
I think that it would be really cool though to have someone with like a darker vision that's more in line with Robert E. Howard and Michael Moorcock and all these guys making a film like that though.
yeah, because then it would be more like the original Conan Barbarian because that's not campy at all. Like it's very
No,
serious. It's a very
yeah,
serious movie. So I would like to see more movies done like that. Like Northman's pretty close to that
yeah,
in some ways. Like it would be cool to see. Like we always talk about seeing like Eggers do something like that, or
yeah.
some of the kind of images they're seeing from that werewolf movie look. I'm like this is looking really cool.
I have 100% faith in that film delivering, man. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I cannot wait. Um, yeah. So you read Waylander? Have you been reading anything else? Are you still not gonna?
Uh,
I'm okay.
I
Gonna start Waylander 2?
I'm gonna do that, but right now, what am I reading? I got the his Black Tongue, the collection.
Yep.
I'm into that. There's the new Nick Cutter, which I have that right here. I haven't started reading it yet, but that whenever he puts out a new book, I always try to read it. Um, it's here somewhere. It just showed up in the mail. Um, and then I don't know. I'm kind of keen to reread a bunch of Bran McMorn because I have the collection that this the big trade that came that you have too, and then we can
Yeah,
because we're going to be doing Legion from the Shadows and all this other Wagner pastiche stories too. So there's a
yeah,
lot of stuff, there's a lot of stuff on deck, man. I'm always getting into some stuff, and then just over the weekend. Tina and I went out for dinner and we were just walking down the street in this town, to the town I used to live in, Metuchen, and there's a comic store. So we walked up there, really, really small. They don't have any new comics. It's all back issues and toys. Um,
right.
so I'm not sure how long it's gonna last really, but like, and they had like the volume one of the Shadowhawk series collection.
Oh, cool.
You remember that character?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's on deck, and that new Savage Sword came out. The reprinting that was incredible. I thought, you
yeah. The
know,
reprint looks really good.
dude, they're not doing it the way I thought they were though. Like they're not reprinting issue one, two, three, onward. They're reprinting stories from like different sources.
Yeah, it's not exactly a reprint of each. They're kind of doing different versions, or they're combining like stories, yeah, together.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
The
kind of.
Frost Giant's Daughter and Tower of the Elephant are great stories to read, especially the Tower of the Elephant version is the director's cut of that particular comic because like the original Conan the Barbarian was like shorter, and the version that appears in the new Savage Sword reprint mag is substantially longer.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same. Uh, I think it's pretty similar, but yeah, they it's expanded a little bit. Like Roy Thomas did that when they did Savage Sword.
Yeah, it's
The early days of Savage Sword. They did repurpose certain stories, but then it worked the opposite way too. Like Frost Giant's Daughter was in I think issue one of Savage Sword, and then they did a color version of it in the Barbarian afterwards.
yeah.
That
I
also,
always dug Barry Windsor Smith's version of Conan too. I always thought that was like kind of like a little bit more subdued sort of interpretation of the character, but I thought it was pretty cool.
yeah, my favorite will always be John Buscema,
Yeah,
but I think that Barry Windsor Smith did a really cool version for those early years of Conan the Barbarian, and then early years of Savage Sword as well.
yeah. That story is kind of funny rereading it as an adult now because it's like essentially like Conan's like chasing this woman to like basically like rape her or something like that, and like that he runs into the frost giants.
Yeah, but it's still like one of my favorite stories, like because I just love the atmosphere of it, and
Yeah,
it has this weird haunting feeling to it. But it
absolutely.
is
No,
funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
but and it's based on like a Greek myth apparently. Like there's some Greek story. I forgot what gods were involved in it, but so there you go. And their Greek mythology is kind of rapey too, just in and of itself.
yeah. There's a lot of rape going on in Greek mythology,
Yeah.
and but yeah, that's awesome.
And they look great in color too, man. Because like I was like, the black and white look is just so much cooler, but they look great in color.
Yeah, they did a really good job with the colorizations, I think, and it's just really nice to have. It's really good for the collection. I always get I've put it on my shelf with all my other Savage Swords because I have them all starting to stack up. I mean, it's been going for a couple years now, so
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
pretty
it's
awesome.
great. I still go in for the trade paperbacks of Conan the Barbarian. When I probably should be buying the individual comics, but I always buy the collected versions of those.
Yeah, I have all the comics, and I even was able to get the free comic book day one for this year.
Oh shit, that sounds cool.
Um,
Oh, and
but I
I
want
picked up that Solomon Kane trade too, the first one.
yeah, those Common Kane stories are cool, huh?
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the art in it. It's really like detailed and cool. I'm just happy they're doing all this. I think, and Call is coming next year. So if you saw that, they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Cole is like equal in my eyes to Conan, but he's like such a different character. Like for me, I always really enjoyed reading Cole stories and comics, and he's like more of like this brooding, dark, kind of sullen, like character because he's like basically this barbarian thrust into a civilized society, and there's all sorts of like subterfuge going on around him, and these like serpent people and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I love Cole, and I think it'll be cool to see their take on Cole. I'm sure it'll be great. The I've liked a lot of different versions of Cole because I have some of the old I have a collection of like some of the Savage Sword Cole stories because they
Yeah.
back in the Marvel was doing or Dark Horse had it. They did those paperback reissues like and and then I have some of the King Cole old Marvel series like the actual comic ones, and I have some of the Dark Horse, and so it'll be cool to see what they do now with modern take on it. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no,
You know,
it's called. And one of the things I always loved about Savage Sword is like you'd be surprised because sometimes there'd be a backup feature in there,
yeah.
and for a lot of issues they had Solomon Kane as a backup, and then but you never know. There was always some cool like additional story from a different character thrown in there.
I really appreciate the new Savage Sword because they're really going hard on like all of the characters. So you might get like you got Conan, and then you might get Bran McMorn, you might get Conan, Cole, you might get Solomon Kane, you might even
Yeah,
get like some very like much like his adventurer character. I forget his name.
Turlo O'Brien.
Yeah, Toro O'Brien or Dark Agnes, or
Yeah,
there's a ton. Like you can tell that what's his name, the guy who's running, the main writer for Conan, who's running the whole, I'm like can't you can tell though he's a big fan of all the characters of Howard and everything, so he's trying to.
what a great job, man.
Yeah.
Like you're a
Yeah.
writer, a comic book writer, and you're tasked with coming up with these like stories and curating this whole thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, because he's like the head of like the whole project over at
Yeah.
Titan of putting out the of all the Howard stuff. So,
Ah, it's
he's
awesome.
kind of there like the main guy organizing, kind of figure out okay. And first they started with Conan, try to see if it was going to be successful. It was. Savage Sword was successful. So now they're adding other characters. They had Solomon Kane. Now, and they're going to do Cole. Um, They only did like a shorter. I'm sure they'll do more Solomon Kane, but I think that was just like a 4 issue miniseries.
Yeah, yeah. I think they'll do more.
Yeah, I think they wanted to kind of test the waters, which I think is a safe thing to do.
Yeah, especially with print media because I'm people aren't reading like they used to, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Conan's been successful, which is great. The yeah, but I've been on like a Batman, little mini Batman kick right now because for some reason it's like I think it's because I got that. I sent that Strangest Cases thing, that like reprint of that old like mega sized Batman thing
Yeah, yep.
that I found at the comic store last week, and that kind of re-kicked off. Like I was like, I'm gonna do some and I've been playing the Batman games and stuff, but and also using this as an opportunity to really read. I've tried to get caught up in Detective Comics because, to be honest, Detective Comics has been killing it for like the main like monthly issues.
Yeah,
The
it's I haven't been reading that, but everyone's been telling me that Detective Comics is really the one to check out.
dude has been really good for the last few years.
Yeah.
The mainline Batman series, they just did Hush 2, which is not quite done yet. This is what's funny is that Hush 2 is supposed to be done, but Jim Lee didn't get all the art done for it
Uh-huh.
before they did the renumbering. Because now they've done a renumbering. They started back at 1 um a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Um which has been pretty good. I've really liked the art style. They've went back to the blue suit, which is kind of cool to do, but it's kind of like a modernized version of that old classic, 80s,
Yeah.
70s, 80s suit. But but so now they're just putting out Hush, continuing the older number system, the Hush 2. So, but I'm waiting to actually read it till it's all done because I did that with the last Halloween because I got each monthly issue for the last Halloween to kind of return to that whole series. But trying to read it every month was a little hard because I just couldn't quite remember what happened.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I got so used to reading everything collected these days. I feel like I don't even have the patience to do like monthly books anymore, really.
Yeah, but I like to support it. So I
Yeah.
get Batman mainline series, I get Detective Comics, um I get obviously everything Conan, basically all Titan stuff. I've been finding more and more stuff recently too because I've been doing the new Punisher, which is really sick. They Marvel Comics realized their mistake in killing off the Punisher, so they brought him back in a new
Again, they're
brutal, yeah,
bringing it back again.
yeah, like in a new brutal series. So
Yeah, dude, I like I said, there's no comic book store nearby here. And so I have to like a lot of this stuff just goes right by me. I don't go to a regular shop anymore. If something comes out, I'll order it or I'm not in New York City as much, and I work out in New Jersey now and it's like at least when I was in the city, I could drop in on Midtown or Forbidden Planet or something like that on a fairly regular basis. I mean, I still have an account with Midtown Comics. I just haven't bought anything. Well, I order from them now, but like, you know, you
yeah, you don't
accrue
have a
all these
box
like,
anymore. Yeah,
nah, but what's cool is you accrue points still. I still have like all these points that I could redeem at some point. You know what I mean?
right. The
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I try to send you some stuff when I see it. It's cool, like the Event Horizon one.
Yeah. Oh, that
Like,
one. That's
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah. The Viking Moon series. It's some also. I think that one's Image, right? The Event
Yeah.
Horizon. Image has been killing with like the horror stuff. The Viking Moon series I showed you, like which is like Vikings versus werewolves, is
Yeah.
pretty
I gotta get
sick.
into that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Image, like, there was a stretch of time where Image was putting out like what I always call like the quote unquote indie comics, that were like kind of soft and like, you know, I don't know.
Kind of lame. Yeah.
And then they seem to be getting back into doing more like grittier stuff, which I like.
Yeah, because they used to be, Image used to be put out a ton of good stuff, and then there for a while it was like, yeah, and they still have some of those soft like indie series
Yeah.
in the roster, but they've kind of gotten. I think the horror comics have been selling so much that
Yeah,
they're,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
that
Well,
they're like, because I've told the guy who runs my comic book shop I go to has told me that those ones do really well. So
the whole thing with Image was like the Wildstorm universe, was like all those characters like the Grifter and Deathblow and all those characters were all like kind of, Shadowhawk were all intertwined in the same universe. And then at some point they got that whole property got sold to Marvel.
yeah,
And then it just I don't know, tanked, I guess, because you don't hear about that stuff anymore. And
yeah,
yeah, Marvel,
yeah.
whatever they're doing, I kind of lost track of them because I used to love Marvel comics, but they just haven't been doing it for me lately.
No, I guess only Marvel stuff that I get is like I got Punisher.
Yeah,
My friend Mike gets all the Ghost Rider stuff, so I read that because he gets it, and then like but Ghost Rider's hit or miss. Occasionally they try to do like kiddie versions of it. Sometimes they,
yeah, dude, yeah,
it's weird. But they did do a cool Blade series that wasn't too bad. Werewolf by Night. They keep trying to restart, but not quite ever doing it right, which is annoying. But yeah, I don't know. Marvel's has not been killing it for me. Like I don't really get almost any. The only Marvel one I'm getting right now is Punisher. So
yeah. I maybe in the new year, maybe when I move back to the New York state, I'll find like a good shop to go to because I'll be like living closer to like a different, not New York City, but like another city, smaller city that has stuff like that, I think. Like out here, you believe it or not, in New Jersey, there's like, or at least where I live in Jersey, there's the nearest shop is like 20 miles away from here. That's worth anything, worth going to.
right, yeah.
Or taking a subway or met the Jersey Transit into New York, Midtown to go somewhere.
Yeah,
So
it's like a trek to
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
it's not part of my weekly rounds anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we I go every other week. So me and my friend
Yeah,
Mike have like our routine where we go hit the comic book store and get lunch. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like
yeah.
our bro date, I guess you could say. Like
Well, the best was when Scandato had the comic shop. I mean, that's at this stage, I was like, damn, that's like like 15 years ago or something like that. Damn, it's a long time
Yeah.
ago. But yeah, Scandato used to have a comic shop in Brooklyn, and it was like I would just go there on comic day and fucking hang out.
Yeah. It's always nice when you have like friends who own the shop and just like go and hang out and talk with them. And that's how my friend Jack had his store Mutiny now. I'd go down and just hang out and talk to him while.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The I just think that yeah, the only problem I get with comics sometimes is that it gets a little overwhelming with all the individual issues. Like, so I have to
Yeah.
I have to keep track. I have to like, and I have to like, you have to organize. But I kind of enjoy it. I don't get too
Yeah.
many. I try not to snow myself over with comics, but
See, that's the thing. It's like once again, it's like I have like that, I have a hard time knowing when to stop on certain things. Like, I'll go and I'll see stuff and I'm like, oh, I have to read this now too. And it's like next thing you know, I'm spending like, like $200 on comics every week, and it's like just because I have that sort of personality with it, I guess.
Yeah, I try not to do too much. I definitely have the most right now I probably ever had for some reason, like because it just has been a lot. There was a period where I only really had like just the Conan ones and whatever random Hellboys they put out, and then the Batman stuff I get because there just wasn't almost anything coming out that I was interested in. But recently, there's been a real influx of cool horror series and stuff. Did I
Yeah.
tell you about the one that Spectravision's putting out?
No, which one is this? Did you tell me this?
I don't think I did. It's let me grab it real fast. This is called High Strangeness. This is issue 2.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's being put out by Daniel Noah is writing it. It's put out by Spectravision. It's their
Oh
first like
shit.
comic they're doing.
Okay.
And it's all about basically, Mothman prophecies type
Oh,
stuff.
dude.
Like it's all
Holy
about
shit.
yeah, I can't believe I didn't tell you about this. Yeah, it's all about like the first issue is all about like, men in black coming, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all about like high strange, just like weird high strangest things. I haven't read
That's
this issue yet,
right up
so
my alley, dude. Now see there's another book I need to get now.
this one is really cool. I'm not sure. I think this one might be about Sasquatch. So each
Yeah.
I think each issue is about like different like high strangest stuff. So yeah, like I can't yeah, I can't believe I didn't tell you about that. It's pretty cool. I mean, I saw that the other when the first issue came out. It is a slightly more expensive comic because each issue is like $8, but it's nice. They went to town with the stuff, and each one has like a big long like article at the end all
Oh,
about
cool.
the topic of the story and in notes like where they got inspiration for the yeah. So
Ah, that sounds awesome.
it's like kind of like a documentary comic in a weird way, if that makes sense. So
I need to get into that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody who's in I think anybody who's listening to this podcast is who is into like weird, paranormal shit would probably like it. So
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Well, dude, the next one, uh, we got that one on deck, and looking
we got
forward to that.
yeah, we got two more Kane stories. So March will start on Road of Kings, I guess,
Yep.
the Conan one, and that'll probably be like two episodes
Yep.
because it's short, and then we'll kind of kick off Howard and then go back to Darkness Weaves with the Wagner, so with the Brian McMorton stuff. So it's gonna be we're looking at probably April or May when we really, you know, it's gonna be a little bit later with time we really get serious into Howard, but so we got quite a bit more Darkness Weaves actually, even though it seems like not much, but if you really think about it, like
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, there's a few things.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe by that time I'll also get a thing about the other books, but yeah, and it's supposed to be the last episode of Darkness Weaves for this year. Obviously, is December, um, so kick off next year on Soul Knox, the next story, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your year.
Oh yeah. Enjoy the holidays, and yeah, we'll see you next year, man. Take care.
Oh yeah.